All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Pat Ruffa, and I have Dave Kraus here with us, and we're excited to host Amy Osborne as we walk through five important things every woman should know about investing and financial planning. Women face a unique set of financial challenges and opportunities, whether it's balancing career growth with family responsibilities, planning for longer life expectancy, navigating divorce or widowhood, or simply building confidence around investment decisions. Today's presentation is designed to provide practical insights around topics like how do you think about investing with confidence and discipline, planning for career breaks or time away from the workforce, saving for retirement while balancing family priorities, and understanding Social Security, longevity, and how long term income planning can affect you. Our goal is to make these concepts approachable and actionable so you leave here with greater clarity and confidence around your own financial future. As we walk through this presentation, I want you to think about your own situation and ask yourself, am I being proactive enough with my financial plan, or am I simply reacting to life as it happens? By the end of the presentation, we hope you walk away with a better understanding of the financial decisions that can, a better understanding of how financial decisions can impact you long term and why having a thoughtful plan in place actually matters. With that, I'll turn it over to Amy to walk us through today's presentation.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Pat. Thank you for having me here with you today. I'm excited to share this presentation material. And I'll start with a question, and that is, can you name or can you think of the name of the first female investor? The first female investor, the first woman to ever invest. Maybe you've even heard that name before. But if you haven't, let me just set the stage here. If you can even imagine it, the year is 1783. Our country is barely 10 years founded. Women are at the dawn of what will be a significant transformation to our contributions to society. And the fashion. If we think about the fashion in that time, it was in vogue for women to wear these dresses with really tight bodices and then big hoop skirts. And for the men, well, it was in fashion for the men to wear white wigs. But ladies, we're not here to talk about the men. Sorry, Pat and Dave today. But that first woman to invest, that first female investor, was Abigail Adams, First Lady of the United States, wife of President John Adams. See, this was during the Revolutionary War. John was away from the home, as most men were at the time, and he and Abigail, they became sort of famous for the letters that they would write to one another. And in one of President Adams' letters, John Adams' letters to his wife, Abigail, he advised Abigail to manage their farm and their assets and to invest their assets in more land. But Abigail, she saw other opportunities. She instead invested in U.S. government bonds. And it is said that her decisions to make that investment were what created the wealth for their family. Now, this presentation that we have prepared for you today, it's called Take Control of Your Financial Future. But you see, when Abigail made those investments, she did that, it was around 100 years before women were even allowed to vote. It was just over 50, I think 52 years ago, that we were allowed to apply for a credit card or a personal loan without a male cosigner. We've seen a lot of progress today as women. We are more educated than we've ever been, and we are managing more in assets than we ever have before. Our presentation today that we prepared for you, well, with this presentation, we have 4 specific pieces on our agenda, and we'll walk through these items fairly quickly. We'll begin by taking a look at our surging economic power as women. And then we'll take a walk through the journey of a life as a woman, and we'll take a look at considerations for our time away from work, or the complexities of investing for our family, the elements of investing for our own retirement. So let's begin with our surging economic power. Because in the United States today, as women, we control $12 trillion in assets. It's also estimated that in just a few years, by 2030, we will control the majority of the baby boomer assets. So let's first look at our financial strengths as women. we tend to invest more conservatively compared to men. We're more thoughtful about risk. And let me just point out here, this presentation, in this presentation, we've got men highlighted in the royal blue bar, and we're highlighted in this kind of Tiffany blue bar, as I like to call it. But when we invest, we also tend to hold on to our investments and trade less often than men. We're less impulsive. We're less reactionary to market news. Ladies, we're better at sticking to a plan. And what that means for us is that our investment returns are typically higher on average when compared to men. And now let me point out here, we've flipped these. I think we flipped these colors, didn't we? So men are represented in the Tiffany blue bar. Ladies, we're represented in the kind of royal blue bar here. But what do you think drives that slightly better investment performance? Well, studies show that we as women tend to prioritize wealth preservation over wealth accumulation. And it shows up right here in our volatility numbers. Nearly a full percentage point less in volatility that we take on compared to that of men. That's in both standard deviation and risk adjusted returns. So maybe that's not playing it safe, maybe it's playing it smart. And over decades, that steadiness can compound into serious wealth. Let's also take a look at how many of us today are investing in the stock market, because 7 out of 10 women in the United States today are investing, which is a great thing. And that's trending up over time. Now this chart shows us, now let me highlight here for you, all of these bars are representative of us women. What we're taking a look at here is generationally the additional investments made by women in the year 2023 to 2024. So each generation increased their investments over that 1 year time frame. And that is a wonderful thing. Now, for this presentation, this conversation that we're having together today, we are going to take a look at some situations that impact all 4 of these generations that you see on the screen here. Now, I'm going to guarantee you that what I share with you today, not all of it's going to apply to you, but I will also guarantee you that something that I share with you in this presentation will apply to you or another woman that you care about. So let's take a look at some of life's priorities and how they can impact our plans at different stages of our lives. Compared to men, we take more extended leaves from the workforce. Duh. Have you ever taken a leave from the workforce? Maybe at some point in your life? Likely you have, right? And that's because we are more likely to be the caretakers in our families. We are more likely to adjust our careers for our family. Now, here on this slide are the statistics for how many of us women in the United States will leave the workforce or maybe cut back to care for our families. I remember when my own mother quit working to care for her parents. She had a career in orthodontics. My father also, he worked, and they were raising me and my brother. And then she started to have to completely care for her parents. And she loves to tell this story today of how she was so exhausted, she was so stressed out. Caring for her parents was like another full-time job on top of her own full-time job and raising me and my brother when we were young. And my dad said to her, this is the way they tell it today, honey, you can quit your job. We don't need both incomes. And hey, there's no point in us both being miserable. They weren't miserable. I know he wasn't miserable, but that's the way they like to tell the story and laugh about it today. But you know what? Be sure that if you are having those conversations for yourself and for your family, that it does make sense for you. And that if you do plan to return back to work eventually, it's not that you need to be calculating the time away by the time away by your salary that you last received. It isn't that straightforward. It's also a consideration of what it might mean for a gap in your resume, or those missed opportunities for promotions at work, or the ability to network and keep up with technology and standards within your company and your industry. Now, let's take a look at a case study for our friend Jennifer here. Jennifer, she's 45 years old. She's a nurse manager, and she receives this terrible, heartbreaking news for her that her father is has been diagnosed with cancer. He's battling that cancer. Her father is single. He's all alone. She says he needs some help. Who's going to take care of him? He needs somebody to help take care of him. What am I going to do? I might have to quit my job. He needs somebody to take care of him. For any of you Tracy Chapman fans, I said, somebody's got to take care of him. So I quit school and that's what I did. I'm going to apologize right now. I should just stop singing. I can't carry a tune. I deliver presentations for a living. I shouldn't be singing. So my apologies for that. But for any of you Tracy Chapman fans, I don't know if Jennifer has a fast car. Hopefully she knows someone who does. But she says, you know what? I'm going to take a year off work. I'm going to help my father with his cancer treatments. So she takes that year off work. She leaves her role as a nurse manager. After a year, thankfully, her father goes into remission and she says, hey, I'm in my 40s. I need to get back to work. I need to get back to my life. So she goes back to the hospital that employed her. And when she left, she was making about $85,000 as a nurse manager. Well, they filled her role while she was away, but she left on good terms. So they're happy to rehire her. But the role that they have for her is as a bedside nurse. So they're going to hire her back making less than she was before, about $70,000. So I don't know if that's really kicking her while she's down, but at least she's back to work again. She did have a 401k. She had about 100,000 in her 401k. She was contributing about 8% annually to that, and she received her employer match of about 6%. So pretty standard there. She says, hey, I want to be able to retire. Maybe in about 20 years, I want to be able to retire. So she starts to look into how she may need to be playing a little bit of a game of catch up financially for that time away from work. And she wonders what those numbers are. She starts to investigate that. Now, thankfully, because you have to compound these numbers to find out a 20-year impact, thankfully, my firm, Franklin Templeton, did the math for us. And here's what they found. Here are the numbers. These are the numbers, but the point here isn't really all about the numbers. This was likely a really big decision for Jennifer, a decision with a lot of love behind it. And we women face these decisions more often than men do. So yes, she is looking at a financial impact, but that year away from work, caring for her father, that was priceless. But if she wants to catch up, what are some things that she can do? Well, really, these are her best three first options to consider. She could make 401k allocation adjustments. She could make annual increases to her 401k moving forward. And you know what? We didn't mention it, but Jennifer is married, and marriage, believe it or not, does have its benefits. So another option is a spousal IRA. So let's take a look at these options together. The first one, the 401k allocation adjustment. So for example, here, I'm going to pull up two charts for us. On the left, we have a very conservative allocation. It's going to be heavily weighted in bonds. We're also going to hold cash here and some stocks. So a conservative allocation. And then on the right, we have a more aggressive allocation, heavily weighted in stocks. We also have bonds, we have cash, and we have alternative investments. And we have our comparison of 25-year cumulative returns. Our aggressive allocation on the right will bring us returns that are more than double, more than 2.5 times the return of that conservative allocation. That's double plus another 60% of the conservative allocation over this period of time. So the point here, what's important here is the level of risk you take on is important and has significant implications on your investment returns over a very long period of time. The second thing she could do, annual increases to her 401k contributions, and a little goes a long way. Just 1% goes a long way. So here we're taking a look at a comparison for someone Jennifer's age, making a very similar income, and the difference between contributing 6% annually and receiving a 6% employer match versus just a 1% increase every year. You probably wouldn't even feel that difference in your paycheck. Check out what a difference that makes over 30 years. over 1 million more, over a million more over 30 years. That is so much money. That is a change in your lifestyle. You know, I've heard it said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. And I believe it was Albert Einstein who said that. Well, he was a pretty smart guy. Now, I know how cheesy this is about to sound. We may not all be able to experience the eight wonders of the world, but we can experience, or all seven wonders of the world, but you know what we can experience is the eighth wonder, compound interest. All right, the other option for her, if you're married and your spouse earns income, a spousal IRA. So for this example, let's say she needed to take 5 years away from work. Let's say Jennifer took 5 years off work to care for her sweet father. If her spouse contributed to a spousal IRA in a moderate portfolio over 5 years, that would have Jennifer looking at an extra more than $100,000 over this time frame. That's triple the investment over 20 years. So these are some options for that type of scenario. Let's take a look at some other family considerations. We all know that family planning is expensive. Do you have children? If you have children or if you don't, any thought as to how much it may cost to raise a child from 0 to age 17 in the United States today? Well, I asked Google that question and it told me it was just over $300,000. You're in the New York area. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that, right? But then after raising a child to 17, 18 years old today, then they're 6 out of 10 of those individuals, they then go on to college or university, and that brings on another set of costs. So here's our next case study. This one is for our friend Noor. Now, she's 35 years old. She's a single mother, just became a mother. She makes about $95,000 per year. She says, it's very important that I plan for my own retirement, but I also want to be able to contribute to my son's higher education should he want to go on to college or university one day. That's very important to me that I can help him with that. So she does her research and she learns that in-state tuition for a 4-year university in about 20 years is going to cost on average $100,000 or more. So this is her plan. This is what she decides to put together with her financial professional. Here's the plan that they created. Now, for the first year, she's going to invest $400 a month. $300 of that 400 is going to go into her own employer-sponsored 401k plan. And then the other 100 is going to go into a 529 college savings plan for her son. That's year one. And then she increases that amount every month that she's contributing. Every year she increases that by $25. It's the cost of going to lunch. And she does that into both for 18 years. And then we can see at 18 years, right here in the middle of the chart, after 18 years, she would have just over $97,000 saved to help her son with his college education. And that's assuming an average annual total return of 5% on their investment. So very moderate, conservative, moderate there. And then after those 18 years, when she stops contributing to that 529 savings plan, she contributes all of that money into her 401k investment only. So after 33 years, at the very end of that chart on the right, you can see what she would have allocated for herself in that 401k plan, just over $900,000. Now, this assumes an average annual return of 7% on that investment, and it does not take into consideration any employer match or contribution. So it's likely that that money would be much more than that for her own retirement. Now, this is her plan. This is what allows her to plan and save for both the education of her child and for her own retirement. That's her plan. That's what works for her. What are the goals for your family? What do you want for your family? How might those goals be accomplished? So it's incredibly important that you set your own family up for financial success. Talk to your advisors here that are hosting this call for you today at Breakaway Wealth Management. Talk to them about your overall financial picture, about your budget, the potential extra costs or future costs for your own family. Discuss the estate plans, the wills, the trusts, what you would want for your family if something were to happen to you. Review your health insurance, your life insurance, and they can help you discuss these goals. They can help set up your family for that success. They can also prepare you with different documents for if something were to happen to you one day, if something unexpected were to happen to you, so that your loved ones know how to access them, how to know where everything is. Think about the financial information, the insurance information, the medical information, the key accounts, digital passwords, safety deposit box information. When I was growing up in my parents' household as a little girl, my parents, I grew up in Northeast Tennessee, and my mom and dad, they would like to take these weekend getaways, and they would have a babysitter or my grandmother come stay with my brother and I. And it was my mother who was always the one who was prepared and left these types of documents out. And she left them in this sealed envelope on her beautiful mahogany dresser in my parents' bedroom. And boy, let me tell you, that document, she had it sealed. She had it sealed, she had it taped, and then she had it stickered. I'll never forget these stickers on this document. They were flowers with smiley faces on the inside. But what was written on the front of that envelope, it's ingrained into my memory today. My mother's beautiful cursive handwriting. She had written, "Only to be opened in the event of our death." Oh, my heart as a little girl would just race anytime I came near my parents' room or saw that envelope sitting out on that dresser. See, it was my mother who made all these plans for if and when something were to happen to them. My parents are alive and well. It almost gives me chills to share that story with you today. And my mother still leaves that document out anytime my parents travel or go on vacation. I dread the day I'm going to have to open it one day in the future. So a lot of times, ladies, it's us who are the planners, the preparers, the preppers in the family. We can help you with these types of resources. Your advisors here at Breakaway Wealth Management, they have these resources that they can share with you so that your family is prepared should they ever need to be. All right. While we're on the topic of family, let's also recognize preparing for the unexpected, recognize widowhood, recognize divorce, because outside of the emotional toll for either scenario, that also means changes, good or bad, to your financial situation. It can also mean changes and impacts to your Social Security. And today, most women depend on Social Security for their retirement income. We'll talk more about Social Security in just a moment, but we can take a look here at the impact based on some of these circumstances. For divorce, the good news is if your partner earned more than you, and your marriage lasted for more than 10 years, and you're over 62, and you haven't remarried, you can collect half of your ex-spouse's benefit. You can also collect your own. You can't collect both, but you're entitled to collect the higher of the two. Now, if you're divorced and your spouse or your ex-spouse passes, you may be able to receive up to 100% of their benefit. That's going to depend on your age and some of other factors. The point here, and I know there's just a lot of bullet points on this slide. The point here is this is just one of the many reasons it's especially important to work with your financial professional here at Breakaway Wealth Management in the event of any major life changes. When dealing with life's complexities, here is a simple checklist to help with dealing with the unexpected. A lot of people like to take pictures of this screen. Feel free. I'll leave it up here for just another second. Take a picture with your phone, hit the print screen button if you're watching on your computer. But with all of these things, Breakaway Wealth Management, they can help you. They can help you with this list and so much more. That's what they do. Whatever your phase in life, whether you're at the age of accumulation or consolidation, or you're entering into retirement and ready to decumulate some of those assets, prepare for leaving your legacy, whatever it is, they have that advice. They can help you achieve your goals along the way. And they can also make sure that you are prepared for all of the age-related milestones that apply to all of us in our life. From IRA catch-up contributions to Social Security eligibility and Social Security benefits to required minimum distributions. Your financial advisors at Breakaway Wealth Management, they are here to help. They are in your favor. That's why they are sharing this information with you. Something else in our favor, our genetics. It is no secret that we women outlive the men in our lives. Now, studies suggest that the average female today will outlive the average male by 6 years. 6 years. Now, I think about that, and you know what? For me personally, I'm a woman. My husband, Eric, is almost 5 years older than I am. So, if statistically I am projected to outlive him by 6 years, and then I add in that 5 year age gap, that means studies would project that I will live for 11 years without Eric. Now I just wish that I met and married him 11 years ago. You know, if you're not married and you want to be married to a man, maybe you maybe you look at men a little bit younger. I don't know. Don't tell my husband I said that. Because I do wish that I had married him 11 years sooner. But you know what? That also tells me that I need to be sure that my needs are going to be met for those potential 11 years that I may live without him. So, ladies, what are your needs? What will your needs likely be? Who's going to take care of you? How is that going to be accomplished? With all that time on our slide, it is so incredibly important that we start investing and that we stay invested. Now, these charts are showing us the difference between someone who started investing and stayed invested over this time period of 2010 to 2025 versus someone who tried to time the market and missed the best 10 or the best 20 days in the market. So you can see here that individual that stayed invested, that royal blue bar, come out far ahead. The point is we have a lot of time on our side, and it's important to start investing and stay investing. The point here is it's time in the market that matters, not timing the market. I'll say that again, time in the market, not timing the market that matters. And you know what? I have to quote Sir John Templeton here, part of our company's namesake. Sir John Templeton, arguably one of the world's greatest investors, who used to always say when asked, when is the best time to invest? He'd always say, the best time to invest is as soon as you have the money. So remember, time in the market, not timing the market. And in the United States today, 44% of, you know what? Can we just cross out that word elderly here? Can we just cross that out? You know, I'm at the mercy of very talented instructional designers who build these presentations. I don't love that word. In preparation for this presentation, I asked Google, what constitutes elderly? And Google told me 65 years old. You know, everyone used to talk about 65 as being old, but that is not old. Not anymore. Not even close. How could we change that? You know what? Let your advisors at Breakaway Wealth Management know, and they can relay that information to me. I want to change that word elderly because I don't think that applies here. Maybe it's experienced. Maybe it's senior. I don't know. If you have a suggestion, let them know. So 44% of, I'm just going to say experienced women receive 50% or more of their income from Social Security. Let's take a look at some of those details. Now, Social Security is based on your highest 35 paid working years. This table provides what the Social Security Administration defines as your full retirement age. FRA is the acronym there, your full retirement age. It's based on your year of birth. Your full retirement age is when you qualify for your full Social Security benefit. If you file for Social Security before your full retirement age, you will receive a reduced monthly benefit. That is a permanent reduction. It will not be restored once you reach your full retirement age. When you delay your benefit, there is a delayed retirement credit, and it amounts to approximately 8% per year. And you can see here the difference that that could look like in the charts here, whether you start taking your Social Security when you qualify versus full retirement age. So for this example, 67 versus waiting and letting those retirement credits accrue up to age 70. They stop accruing at age 70. What a difference that will make. And I'm going to say here, I am not a Social Security expert. I will repeat that. I am not a Social Security expert, but we will take a look at some facts here and some case studies. So let's take a look at two case studies for our two 62-year-old friends here. The first one is Pearl. Now, Pearl, she's retired, she's single, she's trying to decide when to start taking her Social Security benefits. Now, she's got a very modest retirement savings of about $350,000. She also owns some rental properties that pay her about $3,000 a month, and those cover her expenses that are about that same amount. Now, she starts taking a look at her options. And this is what her options would look like, whether she starts taking that benefit now versus her full retirement age, or letting those delayed retirement credits accrue and waiting until age 70. Well, Pearl says, you know what, my parents are in their 90s and they're still living independently. So I may have good genes and I may live for a long time into my retirement. So I'm not sure what I should do. She thinks about that. She talks to her advisor, and this is what she decides. She decides to wait to age 70. She decides to let those delayed retirement credits accrue. She says, I can use that as kind of a form of longevity insurance. In case I do live well into my 90s, I'll be able to receive more income for that longer life. And she says, you know what, if my situation changes, if I end up needing that, I can start filing early, or I can fall back on that retirement savings that she's not touching today because her expenses are cared for. That's what Pearl does. That's what works for her. That's the best decision for her. Now let's also take a look at our friend Emily. This is Emily. She's also 62. She's married, was an entrepreneur, and recently sold her business. Now, she and her husband together, they have a nice retirement savings of around $9 million. Their monthly expenses are around $10,000 a month, but that is reasonable given their assets, even though they don't have other income sources. Now, these are her options. But what's important here for her is that she makes a meaningful impact in the legacy that she leaves behind. So she's trying to determine what is best for her. And this is what she decides. She decides to go ahead and start taking that Social Security. And the reason that she decides to do that, even though she's got substantial retirement savings and could wait for that almost double, more than double amount, she says, you know what? I could go ahead and start investing that Social Security today. And perhaps that could give a better legacy. I could leave that money, more money, at the end of my life. And here's what that looks like. Here's why they decided that that is the best option for her. Now, this royal blue bar shows us what that investment could accrue to over time if she started investing at 62, her retirement benefit, versus if she waited until what her Social Security benefit would accrue to at age 70. And we can see here, those two investments, they track pretty closely to one another. But if she takes her Social Security benefit at age 62, it's tracking just a bit higher until about 100 years old. And that's where those two would really cross paths. So that's what works for her. Now, let's talk about some spousal benefits, because if your spouse's average income was more than yours, depending on when they started taking Social Security, their benefit may be higher. So here's a case study for our couple, Dorothy and Dan. Now, Dan is older than Dorothy, and he also out-earned her in his career. Now, if we walk through this chart together, we can see what Dan would receive as his monthly benefit if he started to collect early. That's that first line. Versus if he waits till full retirement age, the second line, just over $2,500 a month. Now, if Dorothy waits until her full retirement age, which is what she wants to do, her benefit at full retirement age will be less than his would be. So it's in their best interest because he's not in the best of health, but it's still in his best interest to wait until full retirement age to take his Social Security. It's in his best interest so that if he were to pass, she would receive more, about $360 a month more, than if she waited to take her full retirement benefit. She could then take over his. This is why it's so incredibly important to discuss and plan with your spouse and with your team here at Breakaway Wealth Management on when you will start collecting your Social Security benefit. Make sure that you are maximizing the income that your household can receive and that you can receive if you live without your spouse one day. We've talked a lot about scenarios, some of the main scenarios that we face in our journey through life as women. We started talking about first the importance of recognizing our economic power and how important it is to plan for any career breaks, that strategic financial preparation. We talked about caring for our family, the impacts of stepping away from the workforce. We talked about how important it is to plan for the long term, starting investing and saving and staying invested, saving for ourselves, for our future, because that time we do have is on our side. So speak to your financial professional here about your plans, your goals, because you know what? First and foremost, whatever it is in life, if you can't afford it, you can't do it. Determine what you want. Really take a step back for yourself and recognize what your needs will likely be. Make a plan for yourself. And you don't have to have this one-step plan of this is how it's going to be. You can take action in a number of arenas. You can say, hey, if this happens, I want to be prepared to do this. If this happens, I want to be prepared to do that. Your advisors here at Breakaway Wealth Management, they are here to provide you that advice, to tailor that plan, to answer your questions along the way. We've come such a long way as women since Abigail Adams changed the course of the wealth trajectory for her family. We've come a long way since we could first vote or apply for that credit card or personal loan without a male cosigner. Hey, this year, the first female trainer just won the Kentucky Derby. That just happened the other weekend. We've come a long way in life as women. And as I was preparing this presentation for you, I really kept thinking about how, well, there are men and there are women. There are men and there are women, but you can't have many things without us, without women. You can't have life without us, without women. There isn't much that would even exist without women. So in the words of Abigail Adams, in one of her most famous letters to her husband, President John Adams, I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Thank you.
That. Thank you so much, Amy, for putting this together. And thank you, Kevin, for helping us facilitate this. I think it was really helpful. And also, of course, thank you to Franklin Templeton for being such a great partner with us here. So, like we were saying in the beginning of the call, some of our most successful clients are women. So I think this is pretty pertinent and helpful for others to see. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to reach out to our team at Breakaway Wealth Management. We'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you. Thank you so much for your time.